Well, welcome. Wow, what a turnout. It's going to be such a fun week, don't you think? And for the first time, the Global NaaS event. Wow, I'm so excited. And thank you for everybody who's attending, and especially to Lori and all the staff and all the sponsors putting this on. So I'm so excited about what we're doing in automation. I think all the members, all the board, all the committees have done a phenomenal job to get us to here. So let me just talk about it. And I think I've got 20 minutes, 15 minutes. So let's just talk about, automation is really, really critical for NaaS. I mean, NaaS will not happen without automation. We know any cloud technology needs automation fundamentally behind it. And we've done in MEF tremendous work in automation. And as you can see, this is our new diagram, talks about how we bring not only the automation aspects within the provider, but all across the global ecosystem and even to the enterprise. And that NaaS service is comprised of both underlays, application assurance, cybersecurity, and then multi-cloud. And you'll see more and more of this theme throughout this conference. The second thing is we've taken tremendous amount of time to go through our use cases, requirements, the committees, really think about the workflow about these APIs. And you'll see later we took from their 60 plus TM4M APIs, were very generic, very good, but very generic and can't be used out of the box. We've taken them and matured them immensely. And those great fidelity and interoperability as a subset of those APIs you see here coming out in our MEF LSO APIs. They are not interoperable, and MEF LSO API is not interoperable with the TM4M API, but they're very similar, and that's because we've matured them heavily. And here you can see the business set of APIs and the operational APIs, and they're used in various use cases. We'll hopefully have time to talk about that. The next thing is, besides the APIs, which was also a massive undertaking, Daniel and the team, the CBC and others have done a phenomenal job of building our blockchain story. And really at the end of the day, if you think about an environment that uses APIs amongst providers, they finally run into some challenges, especially like in billing and settlement, because if two providers have to be elastic in nature and resources, they have to have immutable records of all the transactions so that as they ratchet up and down the services to what enterprises want, there has to be some kind of record that's immutable, and blockchain, we know, is a great technology for that. And we've done a tremendous amount of work, not only in the blockchain aspects of some of these smart contract use cases, but also providing this integrated trust that allows stamp to go onto every transaction so they can't be repudiated. And I think it's been a phenomenal amount of work, continues to be a lot more work, you're lots more of it. There's an accelerator program, so please get involved. And it goes hand in hand with automation. APIs and all of these smart contract blockchains are all part of the automation journey. So very happy about this. You can see this is our MEF LSO framework. We've been using this since I came in here as CTO in 2016. It's still highly relevant, so it tells you how great this framework from the conception has been. And it's being used all over in all of our committee work. And as you can see, the reference points of where APIs live. It's a decomposition of an automation system from the business systems to the operational systems and across the ecosystem partners facing both the enterprise and other providers. And these reference points are musical in terms, but they all live a rich set of APIs that we'll cover more about, which I just covered on the API, but also the products and services that actually run in those APIs. So really awesome, amazing work, phenomenal amount of adoption we're getting, and the amount of work has really solidified to not just drafts, but they're really in production, really high quality work. So when you think about APIs, we think about them in the past. We've been talking Sonata, which is about the ecosystem, the buy and sell on this right side of this diagram. But really, it starts the experience from the left side. The enterprise, the developers, the applications, as you'll talk about intent here in a second, they want to start with the experience of, I want a service. What will it cost? For what address locations? Can you deliver the service? And basically and then finally I want to order it, and then basically then it has to be provisioned, and then it has to be server tested, and then from there you want to performance manage it, fault manage it, and when there's a fault, trouble ticketing, and finally you want to bill and settle. This is the full life cycle that MEF we've done with our APIs. And this journey starts at the enterprise. It starts with the developer. It starts there and then moves on the retail provider, who then delivers their services. But if they can't deliver those services within their resources, within their footprint, they have to rely on their ecosystem partners. And to the enterprise, that is frictionless. They don't see that. It should be completely frictionless. And that's really the aim and goal of what we attempt to do in MEF and across our NaaS initiative, as you'll see throughout this week. The second thing is that when we think about NaaS, we think about NaaS as a service. It's underlay service, overlay, cybersecurity, it's multi-cloud. But NaaS is just not about this, and this is a little bit more geeky, technical, but basically it's saying it's about applications that can actually communicate through a programmable API, which is much, much less complex or much simpler. We call it intent API, that then influences or asks the network to do certain things. Like, I'm a developer developing a voice application. I write in my code, my microservices code, voice quality, and basically that intent of give me voice quality from the network gets across the API from the application. Network just basically delivers that voice quality. I'm giving you a very simple use case that probably everybody can understand. There are 16 to 20 use cases. Now, the CAMARA, if everybody heard the CAMARA project, raise your hand. It's what all the providers are now rolling around about how can the network, through network APIs, how can developers' application influence, program, get information from the network without people, machine to machine. So this is really relevant, and we are definitely going down this journey rapidly because our APIs are awesome from the IT pro level on the very top. But as you get down into the actual application developers, especially application, they want intent APIs. So this diagram tries to show that in a much more technical way. In my keynote tomorrow, I'll keep it more simplified. And then finally, we think about APIs in the ecosystem. We've been thinking about buying and selling bandwidth, internet, carry Ethernet, but that's not where the game is going. It's also about buying more and more. You're seeing cybersecurity being led up by vendors, and they're co-locating their software, their operationals co-located in POPs or co-located right next to the provider in some regions or cities, and they're relying on their vendor technology providers to operate all of that, keep it up to par, and all the software updates every 2 weeks, and the CI/CD processes, and basically that horizontal integration is critical. And in MEF, with our APIs, our blockchain, and our payloads, we have this capability. And this is the new norm of how you're seeing cybersecurity, especially SASE, being rolled out, and even SD-WAN. And you'll see edge compute being the same way, buying and sell edge compute and so on. So you have to have this horizontal capability of what we call horizontal integration, where the NaaS provider not only can build it vertically if they want to, but they can also partner with other vendors. So when there's a deal on the street and they want, vendor X, vendor Y, Z, or K, they can easily do that in a horizontal way or vertically integrating with all their people. So this is a very powerful area. And when we think about what we've done, we've used a polymorphic approach. What does that mean? We said, let's build a set of APIs that are rich in business and operational. I went through them. But let's not bound them so that every time I get a new product, a new service, whether it be internet, carry Ethernet, or edge compute, or power space, or cross connects, or even pizzas, we should be able to do it. And that's what we've done. We've actually taken and we've built out the product and service schemas that machines need to understand to be able to say, when I want to quote an order, what are you talking about? You're talking about pizzas, you're talking about bandwidth, internet, and all of those have definitions. Example, a simple example, if I buy a pizza, I have to tell it what I want my pizza, cheese, I want pepperoni, and those are attributes of the pizza. So same thing, when I buy certain resources or quote it, I have to tell it, okay, generically, it's a pizza, or is it a Coke or a drink, or in this case, is it carry Ethernet, or is it access E-line? And so what are the attributes I'm trying to get to for a quote, and then finally to provision it? So these are very important. And in MEF, not only did we say we would take in only our definitions from MEF that we define in our digital service committee of SD-WAN, carry Ethernet, but we said, no. This API have to also be very agile, iterative, and open, so that it can be de facto standards. And in our marketplace, we've defined this idea of endorsed and basically partner-specific payloads, or these schema types, so that anybody can build them. And I think this is a very important aspect. And you're going to see in our marketplace, in our roadmap, we're going to innovate rapidly in this area. We're going to be able to be a payload factory for all kinds of products and services on our APIs. So that's really our roadmap. And as you can see, I talked about what we do with the TM Forum APIs. We basically took the 60+ APIs. We created tremendous context on those APIs, because a lot of them had strings. You had to interpret the strings. There was use cases missing. We also added a whole bunch of resources. We took those APIs, and we went through the business requirement use cases, documented the workflow for software architects to understand how to code it. We also developed developer guides. We have a test and interop platform. We have certification. We have support. We have an API security framework, how to secure those APIs in very end detail. And it goes on, and it's very, very powerful. All the assets we've added on to the TM Forum APIs, and how we created a great fidelity, great interoperability, and now we're going to move to extensibility that works really well across the ecosystem. And finally, the payloads I talk about, I'm going to show you in a second, is absolutely critical. All the payload types have to run on these APIs. So we've also realized that what we've really done well in MEF is we really have taken the TM Forum APIs I've talked about, and together in this forum, we've agreed upon what is those customizations of this forum, of those APIs. And we've done that in the east-west direction, because that's important. The east-west direction is where multiple operators and customers have to come to agreement of interoperability, and that's what we've done. Unlike the north-south direction, where a provider can say, I own it, I'm going to generate that customization on my own, because I am my own autonomy with my people. In the ecosystem, the east-west, you don't have that capability. You have to agree as an industry, and that's what we've done. So we really have done a phenomenal job with adoption, and Stan has talked about it, in the east-west direction. And now in the north-south direction, we have not put huge investments. And so I went to DTW, the TM Forum big event last week, and we talked about how can we leverage the TM Forum NaaS initiative in the north-south direction below Legato, and utilize what they do and how they expose resources to services, and how can our APIs and all our automation work with the TM Forum. So it's a really great collaboration we hope to mature, but I think it's got some really great synergies I'm very, very excited about. And then finally, our payloads are very critical. As I talked about, it's not just about the APIs. It's about, in the ecosystem, people have to be able to buy and sell on those same APIs all kinds of services. And what I mean by services, I talked about, and you can see some of them here. And I think we're going to have even more and more services that will be defined. And it has to be an agile approach where someone can put it in the marketplace, put the schema out, get consensus, get people rallying around it, build a de facto model of it, and then come back into the committees and document it and standardize it. I think the standardization model of standardizing and then getting the payload out was great for Ethernet, carry Ethernet, internet, and so on. But as you get to some of these, like voice, for example, we'll never take on voice. It has to be able to be iterative. So we're moving into a very iterative model of doing payloads, and we're going to do it really fast, and we're going to keep iterating them, getting better and better, and getting them out there. And we're going to have lots and lots of payloads and become a payload factory on these APIs. So this is my last slide, and it's saying basically it brings together the business APIs, the operational APIs, and all the payloads we hope to deliver in this payload factory model, and build out an ecosystem that at the end of the day makes NaaS fully automated regardless of the service. And it's going to be very, very important for NaaS to have this automation in place. There's no more ability to go across the ecosystem and wait 3 months to do anything. It has to have a cloud-like experience. And you'll see in my keynote tomorrow, I'll talk about superclouds. And superclouds is exactly the ability for automation to make it look like and feel like one big supercloud that happened at instantaneous speeds to turn up services and know what's going on with those services. So with that, I think it's my last slide. I want to thank you, and really, really great. And thanks Daniel Barlev and all the people that put on this LSO Global Summit. So thank you.